Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gamble the Limp, and I'm back with a special treat for you. I have For What Remains Out of the Basement, one of the 3 versions For What Remains just released by DVG by one of my favorite designers, David Thompson. This is a game that I actually covered the prototype of, so this is the finalized component, which the prototype that I had was, almost spot the hell on with the finalized version. I gotta say, it was very, very close to it. But this is the finalized version. They did end up going with 3 versions of the game. It's a real good mix of a miniatures tactical skirmish type game, but instead of miniatures, it went with counters. So it's kind of like a mix of a traditional tactical war game with a skirmish miniatures game, right? That's a good way to go with an analogy for the game. And it plays really well. I actually had a game with Rob from Rob's Tabletop that is listed in my playlist. Definitely go check that out if you haven't. Mo and David Thompson were on for that as well. Really good game. We had a heads up game. So that is a video to watch if you want to see how this is going to work multiplayer. I'm going to show you guys the single player aspect of the game in this video. All right, now this one, we're going to just cover some of the basics, okay? I'm not going to go over every single aspect of the game. You'll get to see some of it, of course, as we play through it, but I'm not going to cover every single little minutia of it. I've done that in a lot of different videos, and so is plenty of other people. I want you guys to see how the solitaire does play. Now, this one was different than the one that I covered previously. These are different forces. These are the Earthen, which are these green guys way up here. I will actually, let's show you real quick their units. They have the Death Vine, which is some weird looking thing. These guys are supposedly like a mix of people, minerals, and like Netherscape stuff. So the story for this game is actually really good. I got to give him props. David actually wrote it himself. Real interesting. I wouldn't mind reading a novel with all the storyline fleshed out. Geomancer, which I think is their version of a leader. And also the Hellebore, which kind of looks like a flowery person. It's kind of weird looking. And the Ion Core, which has some type of EMP type blast, like magnetic force or something like that. Special abilities, neat stuff for him. And their big guy is a big ape-looking thing called the Tremor, and has some special abilities like Stone Skin, Shockwave, cool-looking things for them. That's going to be the AI in this scenario. And this scenario, by the way, let me show you real quick. It is scenario 2. I didn't want to do 1 because I figured a lot of people will be doing 1. Scenario 2, and in this one, the Earthen, the guys there in the back, have got ambushed by the Order, which are my guys, which I'll show you here in just a sec. And their only goal is to get from that side of the board to this side of the board. I think to win, they have to get 2 people off the board. Let's see. What is it? At least 2 characters. So they have to move at least 2 characters to my side of the board, and my goal is to stop them. I actually thought this would actually make it a little easier because the AI characters, we know what they're going to do. They're going to fight me if they have to, but their main goal is just to get the hell off the board, just to run by me and get away. So my goal is to stop them. It will make it very easy to play an AI type game because their moves are pretty much predetermined. They want to get off. Also, the map shows the setup for both sides for AI. So you see how it's got the circles with the numbers, and then the AI is lined up accordingly on that side. I decided to make it as fair as possible, though, that I did the same for my own deployment. So I deployed my units as if it was the AI, right? So it's the AI setup for both sides for my units. I did make one change. I will show you guys that really quick here. One of my characters to show you all the different characters that I have. The Wraith is one of mine, and this is kind of like an incorporeal assassin type dude. A lot of my Order characters seem to be melee focused. I think that's kind of the premise with both of these, the Earthen and the Orders. They're more melee focused than range focused. If you watch the game that Rob and I played, more of those units were like military mechs and rebels who are going to be using ranged weaponry, traditional type weaponry. But this character is supposed to be 2 recruits, and instead of doing 2 recruits, I went with 1 veteran. You can tell by the points here at the top. 2 recruits, they're 2 points apiece, so it's 4 points. 1 veteran is 4 points. Same way, and it gives me 1 less character to have to worry about, but this character is twice as strong. So the way the health works in this game, I can effectively, do it like that. It would be a separate recruit counter instead, but you just make the character stronger. We'll touch on that here more in just a sec, but I do have a Wraith. I also have a Abomination. So they have 2 big characters. I only have 1, but it's just a recruit. It has the Horde Maul and Cannibal. Oh, it doesn't have Cannibal. It just has Horde Maul since it is recruit level. I do have 1 Carnage character, which has Horde Assault, but I don't think... No, wait. That does work because that has to do with just having multiples of my guys. Doesn't have to be multiple Carnages, just multiple of my guys around the enemy. So cool looking, nasty thing. These guys are all like death looking necromancer type characters, really up my alley. In any game, if I can ever pick the undead or vampires or skeletons or necromancers or anything like that, that's always my favorite. That's always what I will go for. Fallen, I do have 1 recruit. Fallen looks kind of like just a generic troop. You can see again, they don't have any range stats. And just to let you know, we'll go ahead and cover the stats while I'm thinking about it. Move, MOV is move, obviously how far they can move. WR is weapon range, no weapon range because no range. CC is close combat, that's how many dice you're going to throw in close combat. RC is range combat, how many dice you throw in range combat. And DF is your defense. So when someone attacks you, they need to meet or beat that number to damage you. So the higher that number, the more defensive you are. So really good skill, really good stuff. And the leader of my guys are the Nethromancers, or Nethermancers. Yeah, Nethermancers, not Nethromancers. But this guy's cool. He can actually do some really cool stuff. I have a veteran level of him. He's right here. And he can do something called Transfer Life, which basically just moves wounds around with my units. But the Nether Gate is the cool thing because I can create another unit. So the Nethromancer, I'm going to call him Nethro. I know it. The Nethermancer can sacrifice a bit of life to create an extra unit on the field. It's not all that tough, but it's an extra unit. And it comes out at the level of whatever the Nethermancer is. So whatever the Mancer is, probably what should I call it. But he's veteran. So let's say I use that ability. He would flip over to wounded veteran, okay? Because he would take a wound in doing it. But I would create a veteran thrall to throw out on the board, which I'm definitely going to be doing because it's kind of like creating a zombie to fight for me. I can't wait to do that. But my goal in this scenario, so all my guys are lined up, is to stop the earthen from escaping. I have to capture at least one of them by killing off all the rest of them. Now, in a heads-up match on this scenario itself, the earthen player would start out his her characters on that side, and the order characters would start on any one of the other 3 edges. But again, I decided to go with the AI setup with my characters and the earthen characters just to try to make it as fair as possible, see how the game plays out going in that direction. Now, real quick before we get started, if you saw the game that Rob and I play, you already know what these are, but if you did not, this is how you're going to activate your troops. So you're going to have 3 of these tokens for each one of your characters that you have on. I have 6 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 when this thrall comes out that I'm going to have on the board. Where is the thralls? Oh, never mind. I was sitting there thinking that the thrall got its tokens as well, but it doesn't get tokens. I just miscounted. I'm being stupid. Yeah, you guys forgive me for that. But anyway, you're going to have 3 of these tokens for each one of your characters that are on the board. Okay, so when you activate, or before each round, you can take as many tokens from any stack as you have characters on the board. So I have 5 characters on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, Gimpy can count now. That thrall's not in it just yet. So I can take any of these 5. I can take all 3 of one stack, or I can take 1 from each. I can do it however I want to do it, and your opponent can do it the same way. Okay. Now, in a heads up match, you're both going to do it the way that I'm doing here, the way I'm explaining for my stuff. But I'll explain the AI here in just a second. It operates a little bit differently. But for my characters, let's say I took 1 from each. Come back over here, Abomination. 1 from each of these little stacks, right? And there we go. And now I took 2 from 1. Of course I did. There we go. Bam. Okay, so 1 token from each one of the stacks. That is going to get put in the bag. Your opponent's tokens will go in the bag, and 1 token will be drawn out at a time until all the tokens are done. And when the token's drawn out, that character gets to activate and do its shooting, moving, phasing, and necromancing, all the other crap, cool stuff that goes on. After that round is complete, the tokens that are used are exhausted. So for the next round, you can only choose from tokens that are left. So if you use up all of your tokens for 1 character in a single round, then the next round, you're not going to have any of those tokens. So you can focus fire down 1 unit if you really need to, but keep in mind that there's going to be a round where you don't get to activate that unit on the next go round. All right, so that's something you got to keep track of when you're playing the game. Really, really works well when you're playing against someone else on this whole token system, the bag system. We even did it by streaming, by having someone simulate the bags for us. Worked really, really well. So you can even do this online streaming, however you like, and it still plays very well. The AI plays a little bit differently. Now, besides their normal cards that you would use, there are also the cards that tell you what they're going to do if they're in certain things. So if they're engaged, which means up adjacent to one of your characters, if they're injured, or what other orders they're going to follow. For this one, I'm not going to have to worry about these cards quite as much because, like I said, their orders are going to be run across the board, get to my side. It's really easy to determine what the AI is going to do. That's part of the reason I wanted to play this mission, because it'll be easy. I know they're going to try to avoid my characters, avoid the fight, do whatever, get by. I have to get in their way. So this is what you're going to use normally. So if I can't figure out what they're going to do, I will use the cards for that purpose. But other than the cards, the AI has its tokens as well. But you'll notice its tokens are not stacked up nice and neat like mine are. I've got them all in the ball here, shuffled up, ready to go. The reason I have it set that way is because the AI just draws its tokens randomly. And part of the difficulty of the game is how many extras you draw. So they're going to draw 1 for each one of their characters as well, plus either 1, 2, or 3, depending on the difficulty of the game that you want to play. So if you want a easier game, you draw 1 extra. If you want a harder game, you draw up to 3 extra. It's totally up to you on which way you go with it. They have 6 characters on the board. I'm going to start off drawing 7 tokens out for them. If they lose characters, then of course I will draw less tokens. Now there is another token that does come into play with this game. When you lose a character in a normal heads up match, you get what's called your faction action token. And it's an extra token that gets tossed in the bag that you get to use. So let's say my little Carnage here gets taken off the board. I would get to throw this in, and I would get a free activation for one of my other units. And I basically throw this in whenever I want to use it. I'm just going to throw it in whenever I lose a unit and get an extra activation on the next round. The AI does not get the faction action token. Okay, that's one of the other differences. The other difference is their tokens do not exhaust. So you could randomly draw out the same 3 tokens. So I could draw out 3 of Tremors, all right, on the first round, have them in the bag, draw all of his tokens, put them back in, shuffle it up for the next round, and unluckily draw the same 3 tokens. They do not worry about the exhaustion. You have to worry about your tokens exhausting. The AI does not. They can randomly draw their tokens each round. So once you pull them out of the bag, they go right back into your bowl, cup, whatever token thing you're using. and you set it up for the next round. All right, a couple other things I want to show you guys real quick before we get started. There are some accessories you can get for the game. There are things like extra map tiles, land tiles that you can get, and then things like this, which, sorry, I'm going to have to shine you up at one of my lights so you can see it. See how it says flamethrower there? It's kind of hard to see through, but these are lit up. Damn, it's hard to see. There you go. Flamethrower character. Basically, these are acrylic versions of some of the templates for the game. There's like flamethrower templates and explosive templates, blast templates, things like that. So you can get that. And then they do have an extra bag of dice if you want faction-specific dice, color-coded dice, which is really neat to have. There's generic white dice that do come with the game, 10-sided die. But if you want your own faction's dice, you can get it. And I love collecting dice, so it's always nice to have them. I decided to go with the green ones, which you guys can see has the earthen. But green's my favorite color, so I went with that. Has the earthen symbol for the 10, or you can use whichever ones you want. I would have gone with the black, but black is not for the order. It's the gray ones that are for the order. So I think black is for COG, which is the military faction. So they do have some accessories you can get for the game as well. Really cool stuff. Now, when we start playing, I'm going to go a little bit slower because since I am playing solitaire, and this is something I would recommend, is when you activate, especially the enemy forces, you eyeball the ability reference sheets for each side, yours and the AIs, because it's going to be hard at first to memorize what all of their abilities are, which again are listed down here below. So like when I activate a Fallen, he has Absorb Life and Charge. So I can grab this and I can see, okay, Absorb Life. When the Fallen injures an animal, human, or nether, so basically anything, target, well, anything except mechanical, with a close combat attack, it can flip its own counter from injured to healthy. Really awesome. So when I attack them, I can gain back life with that type of character. He also has Charge. The Fallen can move and then make a close combat attack. The Fallen cannot move and make a close combat attack against a character it started its turn adjacent to, which kind of weird. I guess he would be moving around behind it or circling it or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, all the special abilities are listed down here. Make sure you eyeball these before you activate it, especially when you are playing solitaire, because it's going to be hard for you to remember what all of each side has. That way, if they've got any special ability that they should want to use, you'll go ahead and use that. Like anything that's movement specific for the AI, I'm probably going to go ahead and use for them. Anything that gives them a boost in speed or gets them to snake around by guys, things like that as they're coming through. Definitely going to try to use that for them so they can get back here and try to win. As far as the terrain on the board goes, blue outline is liquid. This circle with the stripe in it, the little no-go symbol, that's blocking terrain. So stuff like this, you can't enter and can't draw a line of sight through. Orange is difficult terrain, gives you defensive bonuses if you're in it, and it's harder to move through. So you have to spend extra movement points to move through it, except for my Misty guy over here. He doesn't have to spend extra movement points to do that. So yay, Misty guy. And then yellow is elevated terrain. You can tell by the arrow symbol on it signifies that it's up. So you can't draw a line of sight through it. You can only draw a line of sight like over it, like your basic elevated line of sight stuff. You can't be way back from the edge and then draw a line of sight down. You have to be able to draw a line of sight if you're on top of it down towards a target, something like that. Basically what you would expect from a pretty generic war game when it comes to elevation is going to apply here. Now the little tiles keep sliding. I'm sorry guys, I can't put plexiglass on top of it because of my lighting, which will shine it up. So they might get bumped occasionally. Okay, so to keep the video from going too long, let's go ahead and get our tokens in the bag. We'll get at least a token drawn so we can get the game started and see how this goes. Now for ease, I'm going to start with one token for each of my guys. I should have just left it aside earlier. Make sure I haven't pulled too many. 5 tokens, perfect. So I'm going to take these 5 tokens and I'm going to shove them in the bag here. with one hand and make it very difficult. Ha! Look at that. Who's skilled? And I am going to blindly draw 7 tokens from the bag. So they are going to activate 2 more times than I am this round, and probably the most rounds of the game until we start killing each other off, since they have more units on the board and they get a bonus token per round over me anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna look away and drawing 1, shove in the bags, and take this one, shove it in the bag, and I'll cut out the rest of them so you guys don't have to watch. Okay, so I've got their 7 tokens in the bag, and I've got my 5 tokens in the bag. And for the game, all we got to do is go back and forth, drawing our tokens to see who's going to go win. So I'm shuffling this up. Shuffle it up, because I just put these in here, and I know it's all the green ones on top. All right, let's draw this one out for our first token of the game. We'll set this over to the side. And it is going to be their Death Vine going first. And again, since I don't have to worry about theirs exhausting, when I draw it, I can throw it right back in the cup. So for the Death Vine, let's think it's the one there on the bottom. Draw that out. He has Constrict and Camouflage. So let's check it real quick and see what Constrict and Camouflage do for him. Camouflage, Death Vines, and Hellbores receive +2 defense against ranged combat when in difficult terrain instead of +1. Okay, good for them. And Constrict. The Death Vine can constrict a target when making a close combat or range combat attack. Okay. If the attack is successful, the target is injured as normal, and a constrict marker is placed on the target. A character cannot take a move action while they have a constrict marker. The character can use an action to remove the constrict marker. A character can only have 1 constrict marker at a time. That is going to be brutal for them, especially in this, because if that Death Vine is taking me out like that, oh, I cannot have that. Okay, where is the Death Vine? I think that is him right here. He has a movement of 5, so we're just going to bring him straight forward 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is going to put him right here. So if he were to go up or go into this difficult terrain, that would be extra movement points. So let's say he were right here. We'll just grab him. If he were here, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, he wouldn't be able to do that. Cost you an extra movement point to move through that difficult terrain. Something you got to keep in mind. All right, so he's moving up, heading down here. I will probably try to engage him with my Carnage, see if I can slow him down, but I might have to try to put a Thrall against him too, because that Constrict is going to be bad. All right, let's draw one more token for this round. See who we're going to get. Let's get one from the bottom. We have, all right, one of mine, and it's Carnage. Good deal. All right, so make sure you keep yours to the side when you are drawing, so you know that that's my exhausted pile. That one I can't draw from on the next round. Okay, let's check out Carnage here. He has Horde Assault, which I already know for him is going to mean if I attack someone and I have multiple of my characters around, I do get a bonus. He also has a movement of 5. I know I want to stop that Death Vine, so I'm going to move straight up with him as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now remember, they do have one more character on the board than I do, but I get a summon. So I am going to be bringing him on the board near my Nethermancer and see if I can help slow down some of these guys. I'm probably going to bring this Fallen around over here to try to slow down some of these extra characters, because they've got me outnumbered on the right flank, and I've got them pretty even on the left flank. I've got the Abomination, the Wraith, and the Nethermancer, but these are 2 veteran units, and they have all recruit units except for their Geomancer here and the Ion thingy, I think. Yeah, the Ion Core. He is a veteran as well. Oh, and since I did not explain that perfectly well earlier, just a quick FYI, the higher the rank of the unit, the more health points they have. So you can think of as a recruit unit has 2 health points. Takes a wound, it flips over, takes another wound, it dies. A veteran unit has 4 health points. Takes a wound, it flips over, takes another wound, it goes away. And then the recruit side, still there. And it's the same thing with the elites. So when you have an elite unit, it has 6 health. All right, so you can think of it as 2s all the way. They're going to have higher abilities. You can actually tell here. Carnage, close combat, is 2 at recruit, but it's 4 at elite. But the recruit Carnage only costs 1, whereas the elite Carnage costs 5. This one has 2 health. The elite has 6 health. So it's the better of it, but it costs so much more. It has 3 times the health, but it has 5 times the cost. You have to decide which way you want to go with it. One of the neat parts about this game, that's why I said it's very similar to a miniature skirmish game, because all of these points are what you're going to use to determine what your army forces are, what your forces are going to be composed of. You can have a lot of cheaper units that are not quite as good, or you can have a fewer amount of specialized units, or you can mix and match. Very much like Warhammer 40,000 or X-Wing in that regard. Which direction do you guys want to go with it? All right, but we'll stop here and we'll pick back up and we'll jump into it just straight pulling the tokens, and we'll see how this plays out. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than I anticipated because I have to bring my forces forward in the right area, and I'm trying to decide, do I just rush up and get as far as I can and try to meet them? But I think my units are a little bit slower than their units. So if they get past me, that could be it, because most of my units are not ranged. Most of them are melee units. Some of them have range abilities, but they lose the range abilities if they get wounded down to recruits. So if they damage me on their way through, I might not have the ability to shoot them once they get past me, and that'll be just game over. We'll see how it plays out, though. Anyway, you guys take care. We'll catch you in the next one.